So let's talk about casting from a string really quick into another data type. Uh, this might just seem logical, but let's say you've got string of 27. This is a string of 27. If we want to intify this, intified, we can throw int around string, and let's just print the type of intified, and we should see that we've got an int, class int. Makes sense. What if we have 27a? Let's just see. Invalid literal for int with base 10, 27a. Makes sense, right? 27a is going to be hard to convert into an integer because we've got this character that is nonsensical in an integer. So this is the kind of thing that you can run into from time to time. Now, here's a nice thing about strings. Let's go from the 0th character to the 3rd character. So this is inclusive 0, 1, 2. So 0, 1, 2. Oh, actually, we want to go to the 2 index. And let's see if we can do that. We can, because what we've done is we've only selected 2 and 7, those 2 characters. We've sliced those out and we're intifying those. So booled. Let's do something else. Let's do booled, and let's make this true. And you might notice something that I did there. Let's see. So booled is going to get bool of string, and then let's look at the type of booled and see what we get. Class bool. Now this is interesting, okay? Notice that I have lowercase true there. That's lowercase true. You would think this would have to be uppercase in order to work, and it doesn't. Now, that's weird. That's weird. We can set this to true, lowercase. Now, why does this make sense? Is this something, you know, the makers of Python just sort of figured out and they were like, oh, this will be cool. You know, somebody might have a lowercase true or an uppercase true. So that's not what's going on here. Is a cat true? In Python, a cat is true. A cat is true. Now, what's actually happening here is obvious if we just print out booled as well as the class. Oh. Booled is true because when you cast anything that's a string that has a length greater than 0, it's going to end up being true. And the other option here is we can have an empty string, and if we cast that, it's going to be false. So I hope that gives a sense of the logic or the rationale around casting a string to something else. Basically, if you have a number that you're trying to cast, if you have a string that represents a number, you can cast that to a numeric type. You just have to make sure there aren't any non-numeric characters in there. And if you're casting to a bool, you're going to you're going to either have a true or false depending on whether or not the string has greater than length 0 or length 0, empty string, right? So there's another case here that we want to consider. So let's just call this Felephants. Great, that's perfect. Let's cast this to a list and see what happens. And I'll just call this listed. We know it's going to be of type list. We don't really need to check that, but let's just take a look at what this is. Notice what casting to a list does to a string. It breaks out the characters individually. And so we get a list that is the length of all the characters in the string, including spaces. Let me just add a few spaces here. And let me add a new line character, and let me add a tab here too. And run it again. Notice we get all the empty spaces here. We get the empty spaces, we get the new line character, we get the tab, we get everything. So this is a way that you can break a string into its individual components using the list function. So when you cast a string to a list, you get a list that where every element in that list is a character from the original string in order. That's going to come in really handy. You're going to want to remember that. You know, it's not going to do other things that you might think it's going to do, like, let me just point this out. I am a string. Now, when we cast this to a list, it's not going to give us the individual words. There's a different way that we're going to go about doing that we'll cover in another lesson. All this is going to do is give you the individual characters, I space A, M space A, etc.